Fantasy football season's upon us here, and here's a few running backs I would definitely look to target. Draft day here, the first guy, Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. I know it was a down season last year for Kamara, and there might be off the field issues here, but right now, it's not looking that way here for Kamara. Last year, 240 rush attempts, 900 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, 47 catches, 439 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. So last season, they didn't really have a quarterback was the problem with the Saints. Jameis Winston went down early in the season with the ACL, but he'll be back this season. And he's a guy that, one thing about Winston, he could stretch the field and get the ball to his playmakers. We saw it a lot in his Tampa Bay Buck days, and I think he's going to do that this season here with Alvin Kamara and this New Orleans Saints team. And if they do get Michael Thomas back and he actually plays a season, it'll open up the offense a little more. And I know people are shying away from Kamara because of off-the-field stuff, but right now, the latest news on that, his court hearing's been pushed back 2 months. And there's a possibility he won't get any suspended or at all until next season. Here's Kamara. So right now, going into the season, he's going late first, mid-second round. But this guy, we know the type of talent he is. We know the type of fantasy seasons he's had in the past. And now this season, as long as Winston could stay on the field and be pretty decent, I think Alvin Kamara is a guy who can make big plays and definitely be a playmaker for fantasy owners. And right now, if you get him at the back end of your draft, in the first, early, second, mid-second round, I think that's a good target place to get him. And he's a guy with draft this season. The next guy is Cam Akers of the Los Angeles Rams. So I was big on Cam Akers going into last season, but then he tore the ACL in training camp. And you don't know with these injuries what's going to happen. But Cam Akers here, I have him on a few lists this season as a guy to target. And right now, I think he has a good season. Last year, we know he came back towards the end of the season. But right now, he's the number one guy over there. Darrell Henderson, I don't think is going to be a threat. Sony Michel, he left in free agency, even though he had a pretty decent season, I believe, with the Rams last year. And now Akers is going to be the guy. And with Sean McVay and his great offensive mind here, he's going to find ways to get Akers going. And Cam Akers, he's going to be a bull for this Los Angeles Ram team. So right now, he's going third or fourth round. And to have Akers as your number 2 running back, I think is pretty solid for fantasy owners. And right here, with this Ram team and with this explosive offense with playmakers and a gunslinger like Matthew Stafford, I think Cam Akers has a great year this year. And for your number 2 running back, we're going third or fourth round. It's a perfect shot for Cam Akers. And I think he's a breakout running back as well. So he's definitely a guy I will look to draft this year. The next guy is Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos. So last year, impressive season in his rookie year for Williams. Almost cracking 1,000 yards, 3 rush attempts, 903 rush yards, 4 touchdowns on the season, 53 targets, 43 catches, 316 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. So right now, he's going about mid-second to early third round here is Williams. And Williams, he's a good talent. We saw last season, and this team got even better. They addressed the offensive line. Obviously, you went from Teddy Bridgewater now to Russell Wilson, which is just going to make everyone better and open this offense up even more. So Williams, I think he's going to get more touches this season. I know Melvin Gordon was pretty good last season. He played a factor with over 100 rush attempts. But Williams, I think it's his time to shine, and he's definitely a running back I would target. Another guy who could be either your number 1 running back or your number 2 running back, depending which way you go. I think Williams has a good season. And right now, they're guys that are going to be good and going to be on pitch counts. But it looks like Williams is going to be leading the backfield with a 7:30 to 30 split. And nowadays, we know there's usually running back by committees with 2 guys with 1 bell cow. But right here, Williams is going to get majority of the carries. Gordon's in the latter part of his career, and I think he has a good season, and he's definitely a running back I would target this year. The next guy is Leonard Fournette of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the last few seasons here with Tampa Bay, Fournette's fit that offense like a glove. Last season, a monster year, 180 rush attempts, 812 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, 69 catches, 454 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. And remember, he missed 3 or 4 games towards the back end of the season here is Leonard Fournette. So right now, Fournette, he's going early second, mid-second round, and I think that's a good time for him. This guy's in a great offense. Tom Brady is back. He was only retired for a month or 2 here, was Tom terrific. And you got Fournette You got Mike Evans, obviously. You got Cameron Brate now, the starting tight end. Still got Chris Godwin. You got Julio Jones. You got Russell Gage. Tons of weapons in this offense. And no more Ronald Jones in that backfield as well to take some touches away here from Fournette. So Fournette this season, I think he has another good year in a great offense. Physical running back. Runs downhill. And he's been good the last 2 seasons. I think he just needed out of Jacksonville. And then going from Jacksonville to Tampa, it turned his career around and also his fantasy value, even though he was decent on Jacksonville. But I feel like he's more of an impact player for fantasy owners on Tampa Bay. And he's definitely a guy I would be comfortable as my number 1 running back. So say you go receiver and Fournette in the 2nd round. I think that's a good start to your draft. And he's definitely a running back I would target in my draft. And the 5th and final running back I would look to target is David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. So right here, David Montgomery, he's been pretty decent over the last few seasons. And a guy to be your number 2 running back, he's a perfect placement, or even a number 1 if you go receiver heavy in your draft. So right now, he's going about 3rd round is Montgomery. So last season, 225 rush attempts, 849 rush yards, 7 touchdowns, 42 catches, and 301 yards. So right here, he's got to work on receiving a little bit here is Montgomery. But everything else, he's been pretty solid. And this Bear offense, it's going to be run heavy. They don't have many receivers. Allen Robinson left in free agency. Justin Fields, we know he's a running quarterback, and he's going to be the guy now this season with Andy Dalton out of town after 1 season in Chicago. And Montgomery, I think, is either a number 1 to go with 2 good receivers to start your team, or as a number 2 running back. It's a perfect position for him. So right here, I think he's going to get better this season. Last year, this Bear offense, it was a tough year for them with the quarterback carousel. But now as Fields is the number 1 guy in this offense built around him and David Montgomery, I think Montgomery has a good season this year here. And he's a guy I'll be confident to target in my fantasy draft. So that's a few running backs I would target and look to draft entering fantasy drafts within the next few weeks.